Okay, go ahead.
Hi everyone, I'm Dave Pardue for Imaging Resource, and we're here today to compare in-body image stabilization across 4 very popular enthusiast-grade digital cameras in the Olympus E-M1 III, the Fujifilm X-T4, the Panasonic GH5, and the Sony A6600. Good IS is needed for both stills and video, but for our purposes today, we'll be focusing on the video side of the equation, as that's the trickiest part to pull off. High-end gimbals, of course, can yield very stable footage, but they're somewhat pricey and they add mass and weight to the setup. So having good IS in the camera body is a really great thing, and we're here today to see which one of these popular cameras is the best at it. I'll be shooting with comparable lenses from each system with no optical IS at the common equivalent focal lengths of 35mm and 50mm, and I'll shoot at both 24 frames per second as well as 60 so that we can see comparisons at both frame rates. I needed a way to allow all 4 cameras to sustain the same exact vibration and movement at the same time, so I designed this rig for that purpose. Now let's head down to the Rock Lab and find out a little more about each competitor.
The Olympus E-M1 II won our overall Camera of the Year award in 2016 for good reason. It's a powerful all-around camera capable of being a lot of different things to a lot of different photographers and videographers. It sports a 5-axis in-body stabilization system rated to 5.5 stops, which we've found to be excellent in the field. The new E-M1 III is reported to be even better, utilizing the newer gyro sensors found in the E-M1X and reported to be rated up to a whopping 7 stops of shake correction, all in-body. The Fujifilm X-T4 won our Best Overall Camera Award for 2018, and we basically found it to be close to perfect for the price, with just one notable exception, which was the lack of in-body IS. Now the X-T4 is here, and is not only feature-packed for video, but comes standard with 5-axis in-body IS rated to 6.5 stops of shake correction, just a half stop less than the E-M1 III's rating. This should make the X-T4 a very intriguing entry into this competition. The Panasonic GH5 may be the granddaddy of the bunch here, but don't let the age fool you. For starters, it sported in-body IS well before many of the lines now adopting it. And more than that, it's become arguably the most popular stills camera for video ever made, used by not only many enthusiast videographers, but also plenty of pros as well for certain uses. We aren't privy to overall sales figures of cameras, but with 21 years in the business of reviewing digital cameras for you, we always have a pretty good idea of what's selling the most. In our experience in recent years, the most likely candidate for the best-selling stills camera is the Sony A6000. And yet, even with all that popularity, it wasn't until the A6500 that Sony started including in-body IS into this popular line of cameras, and then followed it up with the A6600. For this reason, and many others, we felt the A6600 would be a terrific choice to round out our 4 contenders here for the crop sensor in-body IS crown of 2020. 4 very popular cameras from 4 very popular camera lines, all currently priced within just $300 of each other, and all quite affordable compared to some of the higher-end enthusiast cameras out there in the market today. We'll begin our comparisons with a relatively easy shooting situation, a gentle, slow handheld pan, and then work our way up to harder scenarios as we go. As you can see, all 4 cameras are able to handle this situation with relative ease, which is good because you might not always have a ball head with you for a nice fluid pan. Next, we'll go to a 50mm equivalent field of view from a smooth driving vehicle on a smooth road, and this is handheld. Once again, all 4 cameras are able to handle this situation with relative ease. There are a few hiccups, but for the most part, all of these cameras handle this situation well. We'll go back to 35mm here and make things a little more difficult by strolling down the road, I'll do the commentary from the field on this one. Strolling down the road on a lazy, stormy summer evening. Test IS in a reasonably difficult test. It's fairly wide angle, but walking is not the easiest test, and we're gonna go over some gravel country roads here. I'm trying to stay as still as I can, but this is definitely gonna show what the IS is made of here. To my eye, the GH5 is the smoothest of the bunch. The E-M1 III also does a good job. Now we'll go back to 50 millimeters and we'll up the frame rate to 60 frames per second, and we'll follow a bicycle from a bicycle. Both 4/3 cameras as well as the X-T4 do a good job here on this fairly simple test. Taking a look now at 40% to get a better view of what's going on. Again, the first 3 cameras are quite fluid. The A6600 doesn't fare quite as well here. Back to 35 millimeters now and back to 24 frames per second. We're going to take a bumpy golf cart on a fairly smooth road to give it a slightly tougher test than what we've seen so far. Right off the bat, even the GH5 is having a little problems. The X-T4 and E-M1 III both start out quite smoothly. As we get over the hill here, things start to get even harder. And eventually, only the E-M1 III is able to really handle the bumps, although the X-T4 does okay for part of it. And here's a similar test, also from the bumpy golf cart, still on a smooth road, and we're going to 60 frames per second here. The first 3 cameras are able to handle this smooth road very well here. There's a few minor hiccups from the X-T4, but not much. Again, the A6600 not really able to handle the up and down movement. Moving now to the toughest test yet, we're going to take the bumpy golf cart over a bumpy bridge at 50 millimeters and 60 frames per second. And this is a fairly difficult test for all of them. The E-M1 III handles it the most smoothly. The GH5 and X-T4 both do fairly well, especially towards the end there. We'll take a look at 40% now. Obviously, when we hit some of the bumps, you can see some movement, especially in the APS-C cameras. A fairly stern test overall, but the 4/3 cameras both do quite well there. Now we're going to go over that same bridge, but this time I'm going to rest the rig on the golf cart itself, and so the rig is going to absorb all of the bumps as we go. By far the most stern test of IS. All of the cameras have some level of difficulty handling these bumps. Once again, the E-M1 III is by far the smoothest, with the GH5 and X-T4 next. It's clear that the E-M1 Mark III is the best of the bunch here for in-body IS. It's handled all of these tests quite well and performed the best in most of them, especially the tougher tests. And it just has a very fluid in-body IS system. The Panasonic GH5 proved to be the best for walking, which gives it the number 2 slot here since walking while filming is such a common use case. And it also handles smooth drives quite well. The Fujifilm X-T4 also handles both handheld panning and smooth driving scenes well. It isn't quite as good for walking, but is still usable for most in-body IS scenarios. And the Sony A6600 can handle the easier panning and slower driving scenes if they're smooth enough, but it starts to show signs of jumping around as soon as the conditions get the least bit bumpy.
We'll bring you more of these tests in the months to come. as camera makers are continuing to push the envelope for good IS with each new model. For Imaging Resource, I'm Dave Pardue, and thanks for watching, everyone. I needed a way to allow all four cameras to sustain the same amount of shake and vibration at the same time. So I designed this rig that allows the cameras. I needed a way to allow for all four cameras to sustain the same amount. I needed a way to allow for all four cameras. I needed a way to allow all four cameras to sustain the same amount of shake and vibration at the same time. I needed a way to allow for the same amount of shake and vibration on all four cameras while shooting the same scene at the same time,